Good afternoon and welcome to Emory University's Goizueta Business School. Today we are going to be talking about how to fund your MBA program. I'm Nicole Hippas, Director of Program Marketing here at Goizueta, and I'm joined today by Libby Livingston, our Senior Director of MBA Admissions. Before we dive into the questions, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. The first is please note that we are recording this chat in its entirety. So if you miss any part of it, don't fret. We will email it to you within a week of the web chat. We will also be sending out the PowerPoint that we're showing today in addition to the video. We also thank everyone who registered and submitted questions for the chat. We'll dive into some of those to start. But before we do, just know that we want this to be as interactive as possible. So please, at any time, if you have a question, submit it and we will do our best to answer it. With that, Libby, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you. Well, welcome. We are very excited that you've joined us today, and I'm Libby Livingston. I'm Senior Director of Admissions and have actually been at Goizueta for over 18 years and have served on the admissions committee all those years. So very pleased to spend some time today talking about how to fund your MBA. Many of you have already applied or you're definitely considering it, and you are trying to figure out now, how am I going to fund this? And so I'm glad that today we have the opportunity to go over some of those opportunities.
All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and kick things off. And Libby, if you could just start by telling us a little bit about the different types of funding available to our MBA candidates.
Definitely. So there are three major kind of areas of funding that I'd like to discuss. And the first is merit scholarships, which merit scholarships, it's, basically, we review that based on the merit of your application. And these are scholarships that we'll definitely get into detail about as we move through the web chat today. The second is actually named scholarships, and our named scholarships are scholarships that donors have generously donated funds to award to really our top scholars. So these are individuals that are really strong candidates and have a name designation to the scholarship that we offer them. And then the third is center fellowships or research and teaching assistantships. So we have three centers: the Center for Alternative Investments. We also have a Social Enterprise Center and a Center for Marketing Analytics. And so during the admissions process, you can apply to be considered a fellow in one of these centers once you enroll. So you can definitely get more details on our website under Funding Your MBA in the admissions section about how to go through that process. But typically you will apply the round, just to submit an additional essay for that particular center when you're submitting your application for whichever round you're applying for. We also have research and teaching assistantships. Those actually take place a little bit later in the process. It's actually once you've enrolled and in your second semester. You can apply for, as I mentioned, research or teaching assistantship, where you would work with a faculty member on maybe some of the research that they're doing or project work, or you could be an assistant in a TA in an actual classroom. And so for all of these kind of fellowships, assistantships, students are, for the most part, or typically are paid hourly. So it's not a huge money maker, but it is an opportunity to gain some experience and also a little bit of money. So,
all right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the merit scholarships. How can someone be considered for one?
Sure. So we make it really easy. If you apply by our round 3, which is our January deadline, you are automatically considered for scholarship. So if you apply, in our round 1, which we've already released those decisions, round 2 or round 3, you are automatically considered. So definitely encourage you to submit your application no later than our January 4th deadline if you're applying this year. If you wait to apply in round 4, which is in March, funds, are really limited if we have any at all. And so if you're interested in scholarship consideration, you definitely want to apply by the January deadline. And again, it's a very easy process. If you, and you're considered for the named scholarships as well. So there's no additional application that you have to do for our merit scholarships or the named scholarships. Just apply by that deadline.
So So what are the selection criteria that you use for scholarships?
Yeah. So we are, we really take a holistic view when evaluating a candidate for admission, but also for scholarship consideration. So, what happens is we, have different rounds, and so we're looking at candidates within a particular round, and we make admission decisions, and then at the end of the round, we review all of those candidates that we're planning to admit, and we look at them for scholarship consideration. And the areas that, we really focus on for scholarship is the academic preparedness of a candidate. So that is your undergraduate record, where you went to school, the types of classes that you've taken, of course your GPA, but also your test scores. But we're also looking at your work experience and the impact that you've made within your company or your organization, the initiative that you've shown. And because the work experience is a very important piece of the application process, but also it's something that we closely look at for scholarship consideration. And the last is leadership. So we're looking at leadership that you have been involved in, maybe in your undergraduate, maybe you were president of a club, maybe now in the community you're really involved and engaged in a particular community organization that you're really passionate about, and you've done a lot of work for that organization. That is something that we're looking for. And also leadership within your company. Oftentimes individuals are involved in affinity groups or different groups within their company, and they take on a leadership role that way. So it's really kind of looking beyond your academics and beyond your job description. What are the activities and things that you're involved in and that you're engaged in, and looking at your leadership. So that can really make someone stand apart from others.
And those are all things that you get from their application, right? Because it's not a separate application. So these are things that they really need to highlight throughout the application process in their essays.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Excellent.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit more about the named scholarships. I know we have several of those. What are they? What does that entail?
Sure. So we do have a number of named scholarships. Our most prestigious is our Woodruff Scholars. And the Woodruff Scholars is a full tuition scholarship as well as a $10,000 stipend. We have 4 of those that we award each year. So, and there is a bit more of a process with our Woodruff candidates. We actually will invite 10 candidates to campus to interview for those 4 spots, and that happens in February. But in addition, we have, I know that, we have some reflected for you to see. We have our Goizueta Scholars, we also have Dean Scholars, but we have a variety of different ones. As I mentioned, these are donors that that have generously given money, and some have a particular, maybe there's someone that is a finance focus that we're interested in awarding a particular scholarship to. So again, what happens is for the named scholarship process is that we look at anyone that we've awarded a scholarship to, then we look at, okay, all these individuals received a scholarship, who are the top scholars? And those are the ones that we look at for these very competitive named scholarship awards.
All right. So we've talked quite a bit now about scholarships, but there's a limited pool of scholarship money that's available at any school. How do students normally fund an MBA? Is it solely through scholarships?
Right. No, that's a good question. So, I think there are several ways. One is your personal savings. That is definitely an area that people, when they've kind of planned ahead, they have been putting some savings away. The other is scholarship, and again, it is merit-based, and at the graduate level, there are not any grants. So it is all, really you're looking at scholarship, and then you're looking at loan options. So we do have some very nice loans through the Emory Financial Aid Office. I encourage you to check out their website. It has all the information. You would complete the FAFSA form, and as an additional Emory form as well to be considered for loans. Because even if you get, a significant scholarship, you have other costs to consider, living expenses and things. So, so even if you get a scholarship, you may want to see the loan options because many of those you can start paying on after you've graduated, 6 months after you graduate. So it could be a good option. And like I said, the rates are pretty low. An MBA student, they get loans easily, and so it's good credit risk So it is something that you definitely should look into, and you can do so through our financial aid office. And so those are the three main areas. And as I mentioned, some students wonder, well, you know, in undergrad I received a grant. Well, at the graduate level there are no grants. So the scholarship is awarded by the admissions office, and then the loans are, you know, basically organized through the Emory Financial Aid Office. And then, you know, what happens is you will be looking at what your total cost of, you know, the education. So we're going to look at what your, you know, tuition is, what living expenses you will have, books, things like that. And then you will, you know, we can deduct any scholarship that you've received, and then based on the amount that's remaining, you can get loans to cover that. And so you can definitely, they're very nice options to be able to look at.
So I think a lot of students focus a lot on the tuition, but sometimes they forget about the other expenses that come along with an MBA degree. And you touched on some of those, right? So there's books, there's cost of living. Can you expand on that? What are some of these other costs that students should be considering beyond just a school's tuition?
Right, right. So, I mean, definitely there's, we've actually incorporated, and you can see through the tuition, there's a program fee. So there are some fees, there, you know, that, you know, classroom related, that all are put into this orientation fee that we have. So there's actually a program fee for each of our programs. So that takes care of a variety of things that you would need in the classroom. But you do have the books and anything that you would need, computer, and that you would need as well, and then of course living expenses, and you know, it depends on kind of your living, you know, how you've lived in the past. You know, some people, you know, you're going to be on a student budget now, so but you know, you can get a roommate, so that obviously helps with housing costs. And Atlanta is actually a very affordable city. When you look at all major cities, Atlanta is one of the, you know, most affordable.
It absolutely is.
So that is definitely something that you should take into consideration when, you know, looking at your school options.
Yeah, and there are a lot of websites out there that will help you compare cost of living in various cities. So everything from, you know, insurance, car insurance, rent, housing expenses, utilities, all that fun stuff. So something that you should certainly consider as you're evaluating options.
Right.
Okay. So what funding opportunities exist post-enrollment? So I've already been accepted, I've enrolled, I've got, you know, maybe a scholarship or something. Are there other funding opportunities that I can pursue once I'm already in the program?
Right. So there really are not. So, you know, I always share with admitted candidates that you need to be comfortable with the award and the amount of money you're going to be paying when you come in, because there are not opportunities, they're really limited. Once you enroll, there could be some opportunities outside scholarships that you could apply for. There are things that you might seek out, but here at the, you know, business school, there are not additional funds that you can receive. So again, you want to definitely be comfortable with what you have entering the program, and you will maintain that scholarship as long as you are in good standing. And by good standing, that means that you're still enrolled. So it is you know, you will have that scholarship as long as you are enrolled in 3 consecutive semesters if you're looking at the 1 year, or 4 consecutive semesters if you're enrolled in the 2-year program.
So Libby, we had a great question that just came in about funding opportunities for international students. Do those differ for the opportunities that are available for domestic students? And can you talk about that a little?
Definitely. So we, you know, welcome international students to apply to our program. We are excited to, you know, review your applications from all around the world, and you know, we consider international students for scholarship just like our domestic students. So everything that I have shared related to the merit scholarship as well as name scholarship opportunities applies to domestic as well as international students. But I do want to highlight that for international students, we do have a international student loan that does not require a U.S. cosigner. So again, you can find more details about that on the financial aid office, which you can get to through financial aid, just Emory Financial Aid Office. You can look it up and go to graduate students and the business school, and you'll be able to see details of that loan. But it is a great opportunity for the international students if they need assistance in, you know, for getting a little bit of, you know, loan to help cover the cost. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we covered that. We had several questions about loan opportunities for national students and funding opportunities. So I think we've covered that. Let's transition. So this is a question I think we probably get quite a bit. And the question is, okay, I'm going to quit my job to go back to school. So I'm giving up, a decent salary, a nice living. How can I be assured that your MBA is worth it?
Right. Right. No, that's a good question and something you definitely need to do your research on. But I mean, we have fantastic ROI here at Goizueta, and when you look at the average years to pay back, it's 3.6, and that's really strong. And so I think that it's a huge commitment. When you think about I'm going to take 1 or 2 years off, quit my job, and go back to school, it's huge investment. In a lot of time, a lot of resources, but it is definitely worth the return and on the investment. And so, our program allows students to grow. It's a very full MBA experience. You're going to grow a lot professionally, but also personally, and you're going to have a very full MBA experience, a very rigorous academic experience, but also a very full co-curricular experience. Where, as I mentioned, this leadership piece that I've shared is something that we really look at and definitely consider for scholarship consideration. The leadership, we want you to come and be engaged, to be involved. We have a number of clubs and organizations that we want you to take a leadership role in. And if you've been a leader in the past, then you're likely to be a leader here once you come to Goizueta. And then the last piece is just having a lot of fun while you do it. You're going to, we're a very small, intimate environment. Our 2-year program's 160 to 180. The 2-year program's 160 to 180. The 1 year's 50 to 60 students. So very intimate. You're going to know all of your classmates. You will gain a lot from your peers, but also the faculty, the staff, the community here. And you're just going to have a lot of fun. And so when you think about this full experience, but very transformational experience that you'll be having, and the leadership skills that you gain and the experiential learning, I think that we, when you think about, a lot of schools talk about leadership, but when you look at the opportunities that we have in that space, it's pretty amazing. Students can do a certificate in leadership now. We have an advanced leadership academy that students can participate in your last semester. So, you've come to, get your MBA to, most of the time you're wanting to make enhance your career or transition, but you are going to gain some amazing leadership experiences that will set you up for your future, not just your short-term goals, but your future goals as well. And then a lot of experiential learning too that you can learn through our program, our impact program, but many of our courses allow you to work with companies and organizations, and we can do that because of being in Atlanta, because of our location, and we have, deep connections with a number of companies, but having so many, we're number 3 in Fortune 500 headquarters. There's lots of companies that we can engage with so easily, and so this is a huge commitment. But when you think about the program experience, and you're going to be able to be successful and meet your goals. And this is a place that we encourage you to, definitely look at and apply, and if you have not already.
Yeah, and we talk about ROI because we really do see this as an investment. It's an investment in yourself and your future career prospects, and I think we're pretty proud that we have the lowest payback ratio. So that 3.6 years is the top one out there.
Right. Definitely.
We are showing a slide right now about ROI, and it shows the salary comparison employment data for the 1 year versus 2 year. And we have a question asking, is there a particular reason that drives the slightly higher starting salary and bonus that is for the 1 year versus the 2 year? So the total compensation for 1 year is slightly higher. Can you?
Yeah, I mean, I think this varies year to year, so I don't know that there's anything. I think that when it comes to the 1 year students, I mean, they're very focused on what they want to do. They're going through a very accelerated program. It's intense. I mean, the 2 year program is intense too, the core. But, both programs have a front loaded core. But I think that with the 1 year students, coming out, and they're very focused, and but they have about, they may have slightly a little bit more work experience.
It's about $2,000 difference too. So we're not talking a lot.
Yeah. So it's I don't see that as a huge difference. So.
No, yeah, but to your point, I think a lot of times though the 1 year MBA candidates, they're coming in and because they're looking for the next career step within their current industry or field. Whereas sometimes what we see with the two-year students is that they're actually looking for a career shift. And sometimes with a career shift to a new industry or job function, that requires not quite as big bump in the salary initially.
Right, definitely.
Okay.
Agree.
Another great question that came in is, what percentage of your students receive scholarships?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, we definitely have a good number. I'd say that more than half the class has some type of scholarship. Our scholarships range from 20% up to 100%. So, students that, apply, and as I mentioned, all the different, criteria that we look at, more than half the class has some type, starting at 20%. And, we also get the question of, well, how many actually have 100%? So, and it is very competitive to get a 100% scholarship. So those are very limited, but, we do have 100% scholarships, but they are very competitive.
Okay. Another question came in. I know the answer, but I think it's important to say this. Is it necessary to quit your job?
So yes, you have to. This is a full-time program, whether you're doing the 1 year or you're doing the 2-year program. So you will need to quit your job to do the 1 year or the 2-year program. So it is. This is your full-time job now, is being a full-time student and going to school. So it is. I think that, as I mentioned, you have some opportunities for these research and teaching assistantships that we don't even allow students to even apply for those until you're in your second semester. And many of those actually are more likely in your second year or your last semester if you're in the 1-year program, because you, in addition to this rigorous academic environment that you're in and, the expectations that you will have to meet, you are, doing a career search, and that will be very time consuming. So it is something that, you'll be spending, we start that prep really early. So once a student deposits, you can start to engage and interact with our Career Management Center. But it really gets started kind of in April, end of April into May, starting to prep for the career process. And so, so that you're already kind of ahead once you enroll. You've got your resume ready, you've been connected to your peer career coach. You'll start to, engage with the director within the Career Center that you will be matched with based on your goals. So it is, this is your full-time job, being a full-time student for your academics as well as your career, as well as I mentioned, the clubs and the expectation that you will be a leader on campus.
Yeah, so it's a great question. It's one that we get a lot. We have a lot of ambitious students. They know that they can handle a lot of responsibility, but it's true. When you're in our full-time MBA program, that becomes your full-time job.
Yeah, and if you're interested, in working, continuing to work, we have a great part-time program. If you are local or have the opportunity to to work in Atlanta, we have an evening program that starts in August each year, and it is a 32-month program, but you can accelerate it. Some do it in 27 months, and some even in 24 months. But it's a great option if you want to continue working in your role to consider the evening program.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit. We have quite a few partnerships with organizations that support military veterans, diverse candidates, female candidates. Can you talk about some of those partnerships and how our students benefit?
Sure, definitely. So with the veterans, I wanted to start with the veterans that we are a participant in the Yellow Ribbon program. So definitely very supportive of recruiting military candidates to our program. We have an amazing veterans club, very active on campus. And you, as a veteran, can get your application fee waived. I know we've got some things listed here. If you happen to get, you can get deferment if you get deployed, so there's that option too. And if you have a situation that you need to apply kind of outside one of the rounds, one of our set round deadlines, that is an option too. So very supportive of military candidates. They do quite well in the recruiting process, and they're very engaged and active in our community. And we can easily connect you to someone in the Veterans Club if you are interested. you can connect with us, and we'll be able to do that. They're very passionate about their past military experience and the program and what their future goals are. We've actually had some sponsored military candidates too, and we're very supportive of recruiting as the military students. We appreciate your service as well.
Yeah, we do. We have a very active Veterans Club. I know we have a couple full-time MBA alumni who actually are going to be deployed soon, and so the club is putting on a campaign right now to help gather support and supplies to help them while they're abroad. So it's really nice to see how active and how supportive the entire community is.
Right. Definitely. And then also thinking about another partnership is the Forte Foundation. So the Forte Foundation, if you're not familiar, it is an organization to recruit more women into business. And we have been a member since 2004. So very excited to be a sponsor. There are some opportunities for us to select some Forte Fellows, which that falls under our name scholarships. So, but we, again, for the name scholarships, which would include the Forte, you do not have to do anything additional. You will be automatically considered if you apply by the round 3 deadline, round 1, 2, or 3. And but with Forte, it is a great organization. If you're not familiar with it, to definitely check it out. They have a lot of great resources, pre-MBA, kind of sessions and webinars and events that you can attend. They also have a launch program. So if you're thinking about applying in, not this year, but maybe you're looking at applying next year, you can participate in the launch program, and they have them in a number of cities, and also self-directed option too, where it's a prep program, so you can, each month they take a different topic, essays, test scores, and you have support, different assignments that you do to kind of keep you on track, as well as mentoring through alums from the different sponsor schools. So if you are applying in a year from now, definitely check out the launch program. There's also an amazing Forte Women's Conference that happens the summer before students enroll, or if you're in our 1-year program. It would be during your academic classes, but it is an amazing conference, kind of professional development conference, but there's also a career piece where a number of companies come, where it's just where you can start to network. And so this all happens before you've even enrolled in the program for the 2-year students. And so it is a huge opportunity. Next year it's going to be in Chicago, and I know they're looking at having over 700 women attend that. So I'm very excited to be a part of Forte. So
that's terrific. So in addition to Forte, I know we're also part of the consortium.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So we have been a part of the Consortium for Graduate Study and Management since 2001, so a very proud member. The consortium, if you're not familiar with the organization, is a partner, kind of consortium of 20 schools, and its mission is to recruit, really more African American, Hispanic, and Native Americans into business education or in leadership positions. And so anyone of any ethnicity can apply through the consortium. You just need to be able to show that you meet the mission. And so what happens if you're interested, you feel you meet the mission, definitely check out their website. It's just cgsm.org. And you can apply. They have a deadline in January, early deadline in January. And so you would want to, if you're applying this year, to meet that deadline. But you can apply to up to 6 of the 20 schools. And so if you apply to Goizueta as one of your 6, what's nice is that you can actually apply to our 2-year as well as the 1-year program. Some individuals, haven't decided, which program may be best, or maybe you really are considering, I think that I want to do, the 2-year program, but I'm very focused on what I want to do. The 1-year could be a great option. And so you can use Emory as one of your 6 schools, but then you can apply to actually just the 2-year or the 1, you don't have to do both, but if you're interested in both, you can actually apply to both. And so therefore, if you applied up to 6 schools, you can actually apply to 7 programs with our 2 within Emory. So you would apply, we would receive your application from the consortium. You would fall into our round 3, our January deadline. Once we receive that application, we review it just like any of our other applications. And students will be considered for the membership piece by the consortium. And if a student gets admitted to a consortium school, gets membership, then those candidates can be considered for a full tuition fellowship. So that is something that takes place in March. So information about the fellowship process for the consortium is shared kind of mid-March if you've received that. And if someone applies, doesn't receive the fellowship, they still have the opportunity to be considered for our merit-based scholarships. So you've got that opportunity too. So definitely check out the organization. It's, even if you didn't receive the fellowship, it's a huge networking opportunity. In addition to the, Goizueta, Emory network, you would have this consortium network. They have a summer program called the Orientation Program, OP as we call it, and it happens the summer before you enroll as well. And you do lots of networking, and there are companies there, and they actually do interviews. So some students come away already having an internship offer, before they've even started school. So definitely check it out if you feel you meet the mission.
All right. Well, I know that several of our MBA students, they come in and they're interested in pursuing a joint degree. So we have quite a few joint degree partnerships with other entities on campus here at Emory. How does the funding differ for those who are pursuing a joint degree?
So it does differ a little bit. So it is when you apply, let's say, I think the most common, ones that we receive are with the law school or with our School of Public Health. So, with the law school, it is, if you do the joint degree, it is a four-year program. You're doing 3 years at law school, and then, you would be 2 years at a business school. You combine them, then you can do them in 4 years. And so you spend, let's say that's 8 semesters, you spend 5 semesters in the law school and 3 semesters in the business school to complete that dual degree. So the semesters that you're enrolled in the business school, you would be paying our tuition, and you would be if you were awarded a scholarship, you would get the scholarship in those 3 semesters. So when you're in the law school for the 5 semesters, you would be paying their tuition, because tuition does vary slightly, as well as if you received a scholarship from the law school, you would get the scholarship in those semesters. So that is how it works, and it would be similar, the example of School of Public Health, it's typically about 5 semesters. It could be 6, but most can do it in 5 semesters, and so you spend 3 semesters in the business school and 2 at the School of Public Health. So it would be similar, where you would be paying their tuition and receiving a scholarship from them in those 2 semesters.
Okay, so you're still eligible for an MBA scholarship, also eligible for scholarship from the other school, and that scholarship just applies into the semesters that you're actually taking the courses at that school.
Right.
All right, that's pretty straightforward then.
Yes.
So we have a few questions that have come in. We'll go ahead and tackle those. One centers on the application deadline. So you mentioned that the round 3 application deadline is when students or prospects will have to get their applications in to be considered for merit-based scholarships. The question is actually around the test scores. Does the GRE or GMAT have to be in by the deadline to be considered an applicant in that round, and therefore be considered for a scholarship?
No, that's a good question. So the answer is yes. So, we do take a few days, typically about 5 business days to, gather everyone's, kind of information that they've submitted. So if it comes in a couple of days after the deadline, it can still work. But if you don't kind of get it in within kind of those 5 days, it is possible that you'll be moved to round 4.
Okay.
So you do need to plan ahead, because a GMAT score we can get fairly quickly. It can come within 3 to 5 business days, but the GRE can take up to 20 days. So if you are planning to take the GRE, then you definitely want to plan accordingly and make sure that you take it a little bit earlier. You would want to be taking it about now in order to be able to meet that deadline. So now listen, you can definitely apply and, if you can't get a, test in time, within those 5 days, to be able to meet that within the 5 days receiving the information, definitely go for it, and we can see what, we'll do our best, but it's, but likely candidates that go over that will be moved to round 4. So,
okay.
But.
And do the application deadlines in any way affect their ability to get loans?
No.
Okay.
Right.
So if they miss that round 3 deadline and aren't considered for merit scholarships, they still have access to loan options.
Yes.
Perfect.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we have another question that has come in that talks about, this again is going back to any differences between international and domestic students. So I think we covered that a little bit, but if you want to touch on it real quick just again.
Sure. So when it comes to scholarship, there are no differences. We consider domestic as well as international students for merit-based scholarships as well as named scholarships. But when it comes to loans, we do have an international student loan that does not require a U.S. cosigner. So that is a great option for international students. So definitely check it out. It's on our financial aid website, Emory Financial Aid website. And if you do have a U.S. cosigner, then you've got that option as well. So if you do have that, the rates might be slightly better. So you can see all those details on the website. So
okay.
yeah.
All right, that actually covers all the questions that we've received today. So unless there's anything else that we want to touch on.
Yeah. I mean, we're just very excited about your interest in Goizueta and look forward to reviewing your application. And reach out to us. We all have opportunities. If you have some specific questions, about your particular case, your application or anything, feel free to set up. We have consultations. We also have quick chats that you can connect with us and talk to a director if you have some specific questions about your situation that you would like to get addressed.
Yep. Two great opportunities. The Quick Connect is just a quick 15-minute chat with an admissions counselor if there's any one or two questions you want to touch on. The consultation is usually a 30-minute session that can be done via phone or
in person or by Skype.
In person or Skype, yep. So if there are a couple things you want to touch on, go a little more in depth on, great options to get some questions answered that are very specific to your candidacy. Also worth noting, I have up on the screen here, we have several more web chat opportunities coming up. The next one is going to be in December 19th, which is next week, where we're going to talk about the GRE, some tips on how to be successful when taking the GRE. That will be actually delivered by one of our alumni. So she's been through the process and a good resource on this. We also have a career related web chat in January. So our Career Management Center director will be here talking about opportunities for success with our full-time MBA program. And then up on the screen as well, you can see just some URLs to, if you want to sign up for the Quick Connect or the consultation, some URLs to access those and schedule an appointment for those. So thank you again for your time today. I hope we were able to answer your questions, and if not, you have several opportunities there to reach out again, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Take care.